also doing something else. They're forming an alliance, everyone. They're forming an alliance.
I'm sorry, Brian.
They probably should, but they're trying to get up an alliance together to promote their interests to politicians and to government entities. Now, there was a news station. This all went down because a coalition actually formed of local news stations, and the organization of owners of more than 600 local TV stations were trying to change the way that streaming deals were negotiated with local TV. And there was a current loophole right now where they're able to actually negotiate with the network owners as opposed to the local TV stations. And when that kind of came out, they were trying to push forward some bills. Netflix, Warner Brothers, or I said Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, everyone started getting on board hey, we have to actually form a coalition to supersede this so we can actually get, governmental control over what they're going to try to do. Because they don't want the government to come in and regulate their program. They're saying they're the future. They're also talking about how they've helped push diversity by hiring a lot of people and diversified shows in their content. And if the government's able to control them a little bit, that will all go away, which I think is kind of ass backwards. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's more about them getting too big and also regulating this whole Wild West. But they're pushing forward the Motion Picture Alliance. They've actually been talking to them too about working together so they can get some kind of deal where they can control their rights over the federal government. So this is very new. It just went down. I said it came down after that local station was trying to get some regulants, and they're like, no, we don't want this at all. We don't want it this. We like the way things are. And they had a poll that came out after they formed together asking the membership if the government should have some control over them. Well, you see, people don't want that. The poll came forward. They're like, people don't want that. It's like they like what we're doing. So believe them that we shouldn't have any kind of regulation. I think this is happening because of all the strike stuff out there, all the negative press for streaming services. And I think that people are saying that people are getting a cut of the pie. We have to all together. This is the first time they've actually all branched together in one kind of cohesive unit to actually fight against everybody and to form an alliance. So, it could be something that could change the whole industry going forward, especially again, like I said, it's a different world, right? Goldy, what do you think about this?
Well, I just got to say, this is irony at its finest, right? You're talking about a group of individuals who were just fighting against a guild or a union, people that came together to protect themselves against the evil empire. What the fuck are they doing now? The same thing. So the reality is it makes perfect sense. They should. If there's someone that's trying to oppress your ability to succeed in life, you try to combine forces and tackle it, the rebel alliance, so to speak. But
aren't most of them in the AMPTP already? What the fuck?
Yes, but the AMPTP does not have jurisdiction over the internet. And so what they're worried about is the FCC, and they're worried about all these other entities that are now starting to regulate what does what, where, how, and when, monopolies, and everything in the virtual space. That's part of the AI argument that no one's talking about. The reality is that you've got a company like Netflix, which absolutely has a monopoly on the internet. So they're worried about it. They're worried about the government stepping in and saying, hey, give Brian cruise control a chance too, and give you an avenue to succeed as well. And that's important. And so they're worried about trying to block that opportunity for everyone and to maintain their status as king of the hill. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it's always going to be. You can't fault them for doing it, but you can kick them in the nuts for trying to fuck with us when we try to.
You make a great point, Goldy. You're right, because they have to worry about their future. It could help other people too. It could help the smaller people that are doing streaming stuff just like us. It could, get our best interest because some of those contracts are different than streaming stuff. But at the long end, it might cause more problems for contract negotiations though too. It might make it very hairy the next time we come around. It could. I don't know if they end up being like, we don't want to sign something. Maybe could that fight against the AMPTP next contract negotiations? Do you think that could have a factor moving forward, Goldy?
I think what's going to happen is a complete reset after this year. I think what my personal opinion is that all of us here on the screen has been touched by the motion picture industry and the entertainment industry. We're all actors, performers, writers, directors, singers, dancers, and yes, sex symbols. The reality is that it's a fucking.
So we should be naked on that show, is what you're saying.
We're not doing it. You're saying we shouldn't. We're too good looking.
Stand up, but that's not. Anyway, the point is, honestly, what we do is a privilege, and in return for what we do, we should definitely get paid for it. But it is still a privilege nonetheless. And unfortunately, what's happening in the universe with AI, with technology, with the way everything is being distributed, with revenue stream, I just think we're trying to hold on to a system that is desperate to keep its grip on the way it was, and we're going to have to start talking about the way it's going to be. And we're not addressing that with the WGA Guild. We're not addressing that with the Screen Actors Guild. We are literally holding on to a grid that is a structure of what was and trying to somehow assimilate it into what is. But unfortunately, it's all going to have to blow the fuck up, and we're going to have to figure it out. And honestly, getting $20 million to be the lead actor in a movie, those are going to be historical facts, and it is not going to be the future. And it's going to be fucking reworked. It has to be. It should be.
Who do you want at that table, Goldy? Do you want it just the streamers represented, or like how would you see it be more equtably represented in that discussion?
I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be equalized, and I think it needs to be a co-op. I think the reality is that the residual structure always sort of has been a co-op. We're going to pay you to do your job, and if it does really well, we're going to keep paying you, and et cetera, all that stuff. Okay, fine. But it really needs to – actors and performers need to be of worth. They need to get paid, even writers as well, directors, everybody in the arts. When they perform a duty and they do their job and they produce something and they do their job, they need to get paid for it. Of course. They need to get paid appropriately for it. I think it's going to be a front-end payment more than a back-end payment, which is actually better. It's better because you can hang your hat on it.
I don't think it's better.
I think it's better in the long run because right now what's happening is
you're an actor, you get residuals. Like, isn't it nice to get a check for a couple grand, like for doing nothing? Like, why would 100%.
You? But it's the same thing. I would say this. It's great that I get paid that, but how many people is it hurting in the process? I'm not saying I'm hurting the companies that have made the money. What I'm saying
it's not hurting the people who are making $1 million fucking dollars.
It's not, but the future is different, and the future, the way people are getting paid is different. So we need to figure that out, and we need to figure out how everyone gets paid fairly. We need to figure out how it goes moving forward. I don't know that is, this idea. Name another job on Earth where it's like we're going to give you $500.
None.
Right? And then we're going to keep
no
paying
jobs.
You.
No jobs.
Never happens. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
So it doesn't exist for a reason. It worked before. It worked when we made the TV show and then we put it on the network and we sold a bunch of advertising. And so you're going to get paid on that revenue stream for that show. And then we're going to go to syndication and we're going to pay you for going because your likeness is being represented. Okay, that makes sense. Those days are over and they're going to go away faster than a speeding bullet.
They're not over. Your likeness is still being reused every single time someone puts your show on Netflix or puts your show on fucking Disney Plus or puts your show anywhere.
That's not what's going away. What's going away is the way people get paid for doing that. The way a producer will get paid for producing their content. I mean, the reality is there's a lot of feature films that go direct to streaming. A lot. And they don't have multiple lives. They're bought and paid for by Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, whatever.
Right, but they don't get residuals. Like, that is what all this is about. I mean, a large portion.
Huge part.
How do you keep paying people for something when there's no new revenue streams to justify payment?
They're making a shit ton of money.
On subscriptions, not on your show. And that's
who cares? It's still maybe my shows made the people have subscriptions.